Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of the Legacy Liftoff podcast by Dronadair. I'm your host, Cody Retlick, and today I'm joined by our first two-person podcast, which I'm very excited about. From VSI Aerial, we have Geoff Green and Gretchen Vollmer. Thank you both for joining me today. I'm excited for our conversation here.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's totally excited to be here.
Yeah, I know. So Geoff, you're the CEO and founder of VSI, and Gretchen, managing partner and COO. I love to kind of always start podcasts off by just really truly learning, your both of your stories and how, one, you got into the industry, what kind of sparked that. You got done some really, really cool and awesome projects throughout your existence as a company and starting back in 2015, I believe it was, right? So
Yep.
I always like to start way in the beginning. If you even want to go back before 2015 of, where you came from, of how, not only geographically and whatnot, but what you were working on and kind of how this first transpired to be like, all right, we gotta get in this industry. Would love to hear kind of that, origination story.
For sure. Yeah. No, so I guess we'll go back to 2002, graduated high school, joined the Marines. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. Got into aviation specifically, intentionally. So I've got, at this point about 22 years of aviation experience. So I ended up as a flight engineer and door gunner on CH-46s, and that's a tandem rotor helicopter. So my flight history started a long time ago. I spent about 12 years in the Marine Corps, and then ultimately ended up here at Quantico for HMX-1. So my last tour duty was with the Obama admin. So we were flying with Marine One, and then that led me to get out. And then I started the business. I got out in 2014 and started the business in 2000. Some of the things that I did while I was in the Marine Corps as a hobby, with DSLRs were getting big, 4-channel RC airplanes were getting huge. They were pretty affordable. You're still running the big batteries. So, back in the 2010 to 2014 timeframe, I kind of got into the industry a little bit as a hobbyist. And when 2015 came around, after I got out, I had a lot of certifications, was hired to do, aviation maintenance, and it just wasn't like what I wanted. So I didn't particularly choose the drone industry initially. I did some research, entrepreneurial research, looked at 7-Elevens, ATM machines, kind of went down that path. And I read a Forbes article on drones and golf courses. The next day, I formed an LLC, bought an Inspire 1, bought a Phantom 3 professional, bought an Inspire 1 kit, and said, hey, let's figure it out. So yeah, that's how VSI Aerial was founded. That's kind of my story of getting into the industry, and yeah, so we started in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, one, thank you for your service. We always appreciate, obviously, that, and it's funny because we've had quite a few starting in, in some sort of, either it's Marines or Army or Air Force.
Right.
So, and it is that natural progression in some ways because, drones in that world have been around for quite some time, a lot longer than the consumer level, right? I am curious though, because if you know me or if you've listened to other ones, I'm a huge golfer. So I'm just curious a little bit on like why did you decide to write an article on drones and golf courses? And what was that about? Just as like a little side note, because I'm a huge golfer and love doing so.
I apologize if you misunderstood. I just read an article.
Oh, you read one? Okay.
I read one on Forbes. So I read one on Forbes, and it had an Inspire. It had a crew with an Inspire 1, and I was like, man, I haven't even been looking at drones, and I didn't think of like commercial applications, and a light bulb went off. And I said, nice. I don't know what we can do with this, but we can do a lot.
Yeah.
Golf course this week.
I am. Yeah, we are. Yeah. We're doing on Thursday, we're going to do a digital terrain model for a golf course so they can use
Sweet.
it, I think, redesign.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're redesigning the course and want to use it for, progression shots or for mapping, or
I,
what is
I
that?
so we're mapping it, and I believe we're mapping it to create a digital terrain model, and then there's a technology company that uses that to facilitate any adjustments, redesign, and stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen some really awesome applications with that pop up more recently too of, being able to find where your irrigation systems are, your water spouts, knowing that you are doing a redesign, like that stuff's pretty important to know, like when you're starting to dig new bunkers or,
Sure.
to move things around. So that's cool. I know that's a huge, area that since golf has just become so popular, I feel like in the last 4 years since I mean, it's been popular, right? But it's become almost like super cool to
For
like golf
sure.
nowadays. That one sport everybody could play during the pandemic and get out of their house. But yeah, there's just some really cool applications that people don't think of other than the beautiful imagery that you can get on a golf course. But yeah, that's awesome. Would love to, see that project when you're done or show it off in
For
some
sure.
way. So yeah, appreciate that kind of intro. Gretchen, when did you kind of come into the fold as far as from being a part of VSI?
Right. So a little bit of my background took a little bit of a different path. I did college and grad school in, this is Zeus. Sorry.
I love it. No, mine's laying down right here. I
He's fairly new and is learning the house rules still.
love it.
So yeah, so I did college and grad school, psychology and writing. Went to grad school for creative writing, and then taught for a while. I ended up joining the Coast Guard, enlisted in 2016 as a machinery technician. So I was stationed in Georgia at a small boat search and rescue station. Did some law enforcement, lots of search and rescue, boardings of container ships, stuff like that. So I was there for 4 years. When I got out, I moved here, particularly to the Virginia DMV area, because I had the writing background and I had the military background, and there are so many writing jobs for the government. So I ended up getting into writing policy for the Army and some cyber systems, and then for the Coast Guard and combat weapon systems. And I was a little bit bored to tears going from being sitting at a desk in an office. So at the same time, shortly after I moved here, I started working with Geoff as an on-site communicator and a visual observer. Seemed exciting, something different to do. So did that for about 2 years before the opportunity presented itself to come on full-time as a managing partner. So yeah.
Awesome.
About 20.
Yeah, that sorry, what year did you say that was?
2021, mid 2021.
Yeah. And then she came on full time in the fall of 2022. Yeah, the fall of 22.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, again, thank you for your service as well. And it's kind of it's cool to see how, it's starting too is like as a VO, you can kind of also get your feet wet in a lot of ways, or just being on site and learning. It's a very awesome way to get some hands-on like look into what the industry is. And I know, throughout your kind of existence of starting for VSI, you've worked on some pretty cool projects, right? And you kind of initially, when you started back in 2015, was it like all TV and film, or was it like, were you getting into other industries, or what
Yeah.
kind of that was like the light bulb moment of like, hey, I want to get into the drone industry, but like, this is what I want to do in the industry, right? Did you attack a specific market, or what was your mindset back then?
Well, initially, I think my first instinct was to connect with creatives and to connect with other professionals, right? So at the time, I didn't have a network of anyone in the drone industry. So I connected with a former Marine PAO photographer, or actually not PAO, a former Marine of buying the drones. We were down in Miami at Key Biscayne on a 20-foot sailboat, launching Inspire ones off, doing shots of this boat with a crew from the University of Miami for researchers that were putting together a piece for like a Rolex grant. Uh, so,
Not a
so
bad first project to be enrolled in, right?
no, and in hindsight, right, we're doing hand catches, and I mean, I've flown RC, aircraft before, but I have less than 10 hours on an Inspire One, and we're doing hand catches in high winds. In retrospect, probably not the smartest thing, but you don't ever succeed in business without taking risks, and that's part of it. So really cool first project. And to be honest, then I think I probably took the path where most first time business owners take, and it's like, oh, well, okay, now what? How do I get leads? What's the best approach to get involved in each industry? So I think along the way, right, you took some hard lessons in SEO, in exposure, in having the right equipment, insurance requirements. All of those were big, speed bumps along the way. But fast forward now, right, 2015 to 20, and we do a little bit of everything, right? We do TV and film, we do commercial real estate. We do infrastructure inspections. We do confined space inspections. We do mapping, exterior structure cleaning. So we're kind of, we've taken an approach of like jack of all trades, master of none in the business model, where if it's drone related, we are a drone service provider, and if we don't currently offer that service, we want to. So as things pop up over the years, we've just become well versed in a lot of different skill sets as that goes. So yeah.
And I think you have to, right? And I've talked about this a lot on other episodes too. It's you take one way or the other, right? You either niche down completely and you get so good at one thing that you are known for that, and you just dive into an industry or a specific service offering completely, and that is your identity, and that you as a company are known for that. And much like you, I kind of had that same mindset when I started, Midwest Aerial Productions. It was like, hey, finding the right people, and we more were a collaboration with pilots and that, because it's like, hey, being able to offer and being a drone service provider, either you do it in house or you broker it out, or you get really good at figuring out how to at least provide these services and learn as you go, right? In some ways, it's the old adage of fake it till you make it, in some ways,
Sure.
right? And ultimately, then knowing it's like, yes, if it's drone related, we have the equipment, and if we don't, well, let's get the jobs first, or let's at least get these connections to a point where we can, yeah, absolutely afford this equipment, or be like, all right, it's going to be paid off in a little, a couple months or year, whatever it is. You have at least the knowledge and the clients, and so kudos to you to kind of know, like, hey, if it's drone related, I want to either learn it or get into it and figure out how we can make it work, because it's tough for people that are only just doing drones, right? You have to be able to offer kind of a full suite of options in some cases to grow business. And again, props to you for, it's 9 years now and you're still in business and you're thriving, and you're transitioning and all that stuff. So I think that's really cool. So all of kind of, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like in some ways, like when you're talking about all these different industries, do you have like a favorite, or like a one that like you gravitate more towards, of like, hey, we're really good in TV and film, or like we thrive like more jobs in commercial real estate, or do you have some sort of direction in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think our favorite is TV and film and production, right? And a lot of that blends with onset stuff and then offset stuff, right? We do a lot of production work in commercial real estate. That's kind of the constant, and then TV and film in the DMV and in the Midwest or Mideast. That is that's something that we prefer, and that's something that we've had to pursue a lot. So I think back in 20, we really started getting into onset stuff. I think one of our first bigger productions was Swagger with Apple Plus TV.
Sweet.
And yeah, and then so that kind of set the stage. We got asked to do some really like we got asked to do some stuff that I'm not sure I would do again, actually. So
Yeah.
You know, I think it was Ice Cube's son, TJ O'Shea, is on that show. And we got put into a high school basketball court. And with all of the actors in the show, all the main actors, they wanted us to run an Inspire 2 at full speed, you know, from one corner to center court to catch a center shot, and then around the basketball goals, tracking. And it's amazing. It went amazing. You know, it went amazing, and it's great. And we operated within our skill set. You know, in hindsight, as you know, as a business owner, man, like that's really close. It's close to that line. But you know, we took off from there in the film industry in kind of Richmond, and so we hopped from Swagger to Succession season 3 on HBO. That was a whole to do. We had to get vetted. We had to get vetted with HBO, have an interview with them to be certified as a vendor. Then we hopped over to Disney with Hulu for Dope Sick. We did Black and Missing with HBO. We did some stuff for Peacock. We did Class of '09 with FX, and Gaslit on Showtime, in DC stuff. So there's a lot of productions. And then we've got our like staple production work that ebb and flows with CNN Air. We did all of CNN Air stuff in DC. Last year we were down at the Trump arraignment in Miami with them, you know, running around with Mavic 3s and live views on our phone.
Nice.
You know, I think that's an industry that's always interesting, right? You never know. Even if you know what you're going into, you don't know what you're going into.
Big time. Yeah.
So.
Well, before we get into the CNN Air and like the Washington DC stuff, because I know it's something I've wanted to touch on, of like, you go to your site and you obviously have some awesome badass shots like in DC area, and I want to touch on that. But before, I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about some of the production stuff, because anybody that is listening or wanted to get into production, I came from the production world as well, so I love talking about that stuff in that way. And I just actually binged Succession, so I probably saw some of your drone shots. I've been having it on the to-do list of watching it for a while, and took some time to do that. But so for stuff like that, I'm curious, you know, if you had established obviously some relationships, you had some connections, you had some previous work in production space, but like, you know, when you are those type of some of those jobs that you're getting reached out to for those productions, or are you reaching out to some of these clients and then getting vetted and being as like a vendor for them? And are you able to speak a little bit on that process of like how you went about some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a little bit of everything, but what I think ultimately, like getting in the door of production, right? You have sites like Production Hub that you can go make a profile on. You know, you can accept free leads. Excuse me. You can accept free leads. You can pay for leads. That's a possibility. But to be honest, like we've never gotten any work from sites like that. Everything has been, you know, in our experience, a producer or an assistant will reach out to us. They'll see our work. They'll vet us. We'll have a meeting. We'll talk about camera packages. And if we can agree on rates, you know, we'll come in on set. And then it's just a matter of, you know, professionalism, how you present yourself on set etiquette, making sure you have the equipment that you need, making sure that you can, you know, hook up all of your drones for director feeds. You're not, you know, when they call drone crew, you're not using the bathroom, you know, you're not a crafty, you know, that you're ready, that someone's got a radio at all times. You've got the right people. You got a camera op, you got a tech, you're ready for all the shots. Your lenses are clean. You can do your swap, stuff like that. I think all of those pieces are really important, and being able to perform when it's time to perform, you know, really, that's what it boils down to, you know, coming prepared and being able to execute. When you're on set and you've waited around for 11 hours for them to get A cam and B cam and whatever other shots that they need to do, and then at the 11th hour, they're like, man, we just paid these drone guys to be here all day. Let's get this really, you know, complex shot. And oh, by the way, we only have 30 minutes to do it, right? That's the way it always works.
Drone is always like an afterthought, I feel like, in some ways, right? It's like so much, And I feel like we need to change that narrative in some ways, because I feel like it's always an establishing shot, right? In like the
Yeah,
production, it's like it's an intro shot, it's a scene change, it's like an outro
yeah,
shot. But like, and we've talked about this in some other ones where there's cool ways to kind of transition, even with now like FPV, like handhelds, like
oh
going
yeah,
from handheld. You've seen probably the one where they're in that hotel room, take off, go down the
oh
window
yeah,
into a car, like so many cool things you can do on that. But like, it is high pressure situations, right? Like you're there all day, you're waiting for your moment, you're waiting for them to be ready for you. And it's like, you got to nail it, right? You have to be
yeah,
prepared. And to do that is obviously then your reputation, right? And you can
yeah,
also then get referrals from those producers and some of those companies, right?
yeah.
It's a great way to then expand.
Yeah, and that's really the way we get business now. There's producers that'll just reach out for a bunch of different productions, and it's now we don't have to like look for work. If there's a production coming to Richmond or DC or Baltimore, either we've aligned ourselves with the production companies that are the go-to production companies that don't specialize in drones, or we've
Mm-hmm.
aligned ourselves with film offices and reps that will refer us or producers. So the word of mouth game in the drone industry is extremely strong, and it can make or break businesses. So like if
100%.
you don't perform, someone could really like your work and want to reach out and then talk to someone that you've worked with before that you didn't perform for.
Mm-hmm.
And then just drop you. I think that's been our experience with finding and building both a reputation and a body of work. And I think that's something that I've noticed too. As it progresses, right? Initially, there's some jobs that we didn't get because people were like, "Hey, have you done car tracking scenes?" And we're like, "Oh no, but we can." And they're
Right.
like, "Oh yeah, no, thank you. We want to see that." Fast forward 3 years later, we're doing car tracking, we're doing indoor basketball court, we're working with movie horses under full tree canopy, going 30 miles an hour on trucks on bumpy roads with different elevation. We're tracking air-to-air planes with NASA and MIT. We're doing stuff like that with Boeing. We're doing air-to-air with, parachutes with some combat foundations. So now I think building that experience over years, I think we're at the point now where we're looking for someone to come to us and say, "Hey, we wanted you to do this thing that you've never done before." For
That that's the fun of it, right?
just to keep evolving. But it is nice to say, like when people are asking for some complex stuff or some unique stuff, it's nice to say, "Oh yeah, we've got something similar, or we've done that."
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, is building up that portfolio of different types of jobs, but also different types of shots and capabilities of equipment. And I know you mentioned Inspire 2s. Is that what you primarily fly for a lot of the productions?
We did. We did fly Inspire 2s. We still have some, collecting dust somewhere. But now we have a couple Inspire 3 kits
Okay,
with the F9s. Yeah.
nice.
And
Yeah, huge
whole different ball game.
for sure.
Much nicer. I think the Inspire 2s were around from like 2016 to probably 2016 to like 20. So it's nice to get a new model with better capabilities and an FPV camera that allows you to not have to use that line of sight perspective when going through tight places as much.
I got two of them sitting in the closet right next to me that come out very infrequent these days as well. It's like, yeah, they are an expensive. I probably should get like a shelf to just display all the retired drones at this
Right?
point, right? But I don't have enough wall space for that. But
For sure.
it is crazy because they're releasing stuff all the time. But that Inspire 3 for sure, it's been the one huge upgrade in that production level from DJI, right? You have others like, that you can mount obviously DSLRs and cinema cameras and stuff like that too, and do some crazy stuff. But yeah, crazy awesome bird there with that Inspire 3. And I'm sure now any production is like, well, let's do it. Absolutely. If you have an
For
Inspire
sure.
3, that right there is a big value add to a lot of other people can't provide.
100%.
So yeah, that's fantastic. So going back to before, we talked a little bit about the Washington D.C. type stuff. If you're in the drone groups or you've listened to, I talked with Vic Moss on the podcast
Yeah,
about him getting some clearance in D.C. area and what kind of that entails in some respects. And obviously, we all want to promote the safety and doing things the right way rather than, you see people flying in
sure.
professional sports stadiums and doing all this crazy stuff. And that FPV shot that was actually right at the Washington Monument,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, it's a few minutes.
Uh,
Yeah,
Totally illegal shot,
yeah,
as we all know now. But you have some shots that are legally done in the
yeah.
Washington D.C. area. Just to educate a little bit of some of our listeners on that too, of like how'd you go about that and what kind of that process? Because that also is like if people are looking for stuff in that area, like that's a huge value add for you as well.
100.
To be able to provide that legally safe flight that they don't have to worry about any of those liabilities for. So you talk a little bit about how that all went?
Yeah, absolutely. So the DC flight restricted zone extends from the DCA, which is Reagan National Vortac, right? It's not completely cylindrical, but it extends 15 nautical miles, which is pretty far.
Yeah.
So 15 nautical miles from the Reagan Vortac, all of that's the flight restricted zone. You can't fly a helicopter in there, a fixed wing, a drone, a balloon, anything without a flight restricted zone authorization. And so, I think when starting the business in 2015, that was kind of a big oversight for me, right? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to start this drone company. And then I was like, oh, the rest of the market is completely shut down airspace wise, right? So that was a roadblock, and I think I understood pretty quickly that either I need to find a way to operate inside the flight restricted zone safely and legally, or I'm going to bottleneck my business, and I'm going to have to either service, nationally or on the East Coast, but I can't rely on this market for income. So in 20, and it took a while, right? So in 20, we finally started making some progress with agencies. We had to find partners to get work, essentially, to do a test bed on approaches to both the TSA and the security agencies inside of DC and say, hey, we want to take these drones and we want to fly them commercially. How do we do this? So I partnered with some consultants in the industry, in the manned aviation industry, and we worked through the problem together. And in early 2018, late 2017, early 2018, we did our first flights inside of 7 nautical miles of DC. So we kind of skipped the 15 and then we went straight into
Nice.
7. And what we did is we kind of coordinated everything from the ground up with the security agencies and with the TSA. So fast forward to 2020, we've flown in every jurisdiction, whether that's Maryland inside of 7, Maryland inside of 15, Alexandria, Arlington, Virginia, DC proper, Bethesda, Maryland. We have clients all over in the DMV, and the restrictions to fly inside of 7 nautical miles are much more restrictive than outside, right? So I think people can come in and kind of get a waiver for the 7 to 15 and figure out that process and do the dirty work and get their own. Inside of 7, you have to have, government endorsements. You have to have law enforcement with you. There's more security coordination. And I think building the reputation and the brand to have people sign off on that is really a lot of the legwork and also kind of becoming a trusted vendor, right? There's a lot of rules in place right now in the flight restricted zone, and anyone at the TSA will tell you that is because of VSI Aerial, right? And not that we did anything bad,
Right.
but we're always pushing the limits and we're always asking for different types of things. And so, really our experience of flying here has been, hey, if it's possible, we're going to ask for it. If you tell us no, we're going to ask why, and And if
Yeah.
there's a way forward, we're going to try to make it work in a way forward that everyone's comfortable, it's safe, it's professional. And if that doesn't work, then that's fine. But if it does, great. And that's kind of the way we've operated. And so, I think as it stands now, we've probably flown. I won't say we've 100% flown in every possible location inside the district. Every major location. There's 2 locations inside of DC proper. It's called P56 Alpha and P56 Bravo. It's kind of the National Mall and the Naval Observatory. Naval Observatory is where the president stays. The National Mall is like right at the monuments, the Capitol building, and the White House. We've flown 2 blocks from the White House. We've flown 5 feet from that line, right? And that's and we've been given access and waivers to do so. And that's kind of because of the trust that we've built up with the security agencies. I don't think commercial flights will ever happen inside those areas. It's managed by different agencies, and I don't think that's ever going to be a possibility. It may be, but I don't think so. So really, we are able to fly wherever in the district, wherever it's possible. And we have all those contacts in place and those procedures. So
That's great.
when you talked about earlier, you said you build your brand on a niche, right? You build your brand on a niche or you provide all services. I think we've done a hybrid of both, right? Our niche is airspace access in DC. Airspace access in DC is 100% our niche. And outside of that, our drone services are broad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's because you've been able to do things right by the book, and not also just like being deterred by, hey, this is a pretty big feat that most people would just stray away from because, hey, we can't do it. We've been told no. Of course, it's a very highly restricted area for airspace and anything flying in that regards to those areas. So, props to obviously figuring it out, bringing the right people in place too, and building those relationships. Talked a lot about that on other podcasts. It's just a natural thing that I love doing. That's why I started the podcast, is just building those relationships and telling people stories. But I think it's cool because it shows true not only in your business but a lot of others. It's like putting the right people in place, knowing who the right person is to talk to. If not, just being curious about how to do something the right way, and asking those questions and kind of figuring out the best solution in a more well-rounded manner, rather than just, hey, I'm just gonna fly and hope I don't get a fine at some point, which now with remote ID and everything, I think that's probably going to be a little bit harder to do these days. So, obviously that's great. And it is a huge value add for you guys, I think, for sure. Right. It's something that if they see that and anybody wants some shots in some of those restricted areas, I mean, you're an easy call, right? To be able to kind of make that happen in a timely manner that's safe and done the right way. So that's great. I know you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. You just kind of like scratched the surface a little bit. You kind of you glazed over it, but you mentioned too that you do exterior cleaning or washing, correct? Is that
Yes.
I feel like, and I want to kind of dive a little bit more into that too, because I've seen it more and more these days. And it's, I've seen a couple companies out there that are doing it, and I think it's cool. And I think it's another awesome application in the drone industry that we're taking, something that the technology is there, applying it to a drone, and then helping with safety and cost savings and all the other things that, a new kind of technology or initiative in an industry can do for a new business. So how did that come about, or what are you what's kind of all going on with that?
I think so. I think in my business model, and this kind of goes hand in hand with Gretchen coming on board, 2021 or so, is that it was the business model was not unsustainable, but unscalable, right? Not scalable rapidly. We can scale, and we have. We've grown 20%, probably consistently year over year, right? So the creative industry isn't consistent.
Yeah.
And you have to fill a lot of holes to have kind of this market portfolio or this market share that sustains a business and grows, right? And at any point in time, one of those can go away, right? COVID-19 can happen, the production industry can shut down, and then commercial real estate takes its place. That's
Got to be there.
Yeah, that's how the market works. But I think the idea is like, hey, what can drones do as a service provider that is scalable in industries that already exist? And I think, I saw a video on a window washing like prototype drone, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Did some research, nothing was available in the market. Our niche is in R&D, so it wasn't going down that rabbit hole, right? But I kind of kept an eye out and was like, look, I think this is something that I would like to pursue when it's available. Fast forward to 20, and something was available, and Gretchen was already working with me. Something was available, and I took a look at it, and I was like, man, we have airspace access in a market that's otherwise restricted to operators. The business has developed a lot of funds, a lot of reserve funds over the years. Maybe it's time to pursue a different vertical and scale. And that's when we formed the cleaning portion in the fall of 2022, and kind of did this deep dive into an industry that doesn't exist, right? The cleaning industry exists, but we did a deep dive into the drone cleaning industry, and that's non-existent.
Yeah, it was also just, there's so much to it because we have these drones and all the battery equipment, everything you have with other drones, but we also have a 14-foot trailer with pump systems and deionization systems and all kinds of cleaning chemicals and all kinds of stuff. So it was a whole new world to dive into. I think we were, really lucky to have been working together because we both have this different but similar mechanical background too. So we're doing a lot of maintenance and build outs and on a trailer systems. I've actually worked on a lot when I was in the Coast Guard, pump systems and stuff like that. So it's been exciting. I'm not bored like I was so
that's good, right? If you don't feel like you're working, right? It's does it feel like work then? Right?
Sometimes
it's not.
There's definitely a lot of work to it.
But it's different. It's, I think what's really interesting about this is, Geoff really built this diverse things that you do with the photography and videography and inspection and all that. But there's also a lot of diversity just in the cleaning itself too, and the spraying, whether it's windows, facades, solar panels, doing inspections with them. We're looking at thermal imaging as well, bringing that on board. So there's a lot of ways drones can service a building as a whole package, doing cycles, and there's just a lot to it. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of challenges. Some of the things that we've had to work through, like our first drone cleaning project was in production. It was in the film industry.
Nice.
So we went out to LA and we had to bring
because they wanted to show off the process of cleaning, or was it like they were filming you do it for the production? Or?
No, it was for the event. It was for the opening of the Citadel, the grand opening of the Citadel.
Okay.
It was a stunt.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They wanted to clean off a sign that revealed the tagline underneath. So they wanted these drones to pop up and wash up this stuff. And in true production fashion, we're in LA 2 days from the shoot, and the paint source that they had for the paint that we were using ran out. So we attended the event. We of course got paid. Yes. We did not fly, unfortunately, but it was a great test run, right? Yeah. How do you get heavy lift batteries from Northern Virginia to LA with 6 days notice? Yeah. So
did you ship them? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I had to get hazmat certified and take a class quickly and get specific packaging. They showed up the day before we did.
Yeah.
So.
So figuring out like how do we ship hazmat across the country, right? How do we get rental vehicles with hitches, and how do we get trailers that have the right pumps, that don't exist, or we don't know where they're at, Yeah, definitely a lot of challenges in that regard, and I think the cleaning industry in general is something new, right? We both come from a big mechanical background, big background in drone service providing, but you're entering an industry where there's a lot of chemical requirements, a lot of different requirements of different stones and facades and stuff.
Even where like there's tons of cleaning products for solar panels, for example. But I'm looking for the solar panel cleaning agent that will do it touch-free without a brush. So there'll be ones that are designed to work with certain brushes, but this is a whole new thing. So we're doing a lot of R&D. I just yesterday picked up a whole bunch of different types of tile so we can compare stonework with chemicals versus pressure, et cetera. And I also have a solar panel on its way here, so we can test. I have, I think, 8 different solar panel washes that we're going to stick the solar panel outside, let it get real dirty, and then see what works best.
Nice.
So yeah, a lot of art.
I guess, yeah, for someone that doesn't know the process or have never heard about this or seen any of the videos out there that of them actually cleaning, right? Using a drone to clean. Can you give us just a short little snippet of what that process looks like? From, you obviously have whatever cleaning agent is, and I know it's dependent on, like you said, the surfaces and because I've seen some of them that have hoses that are connected to something or to a pump, right? And then you have the cleaning agent inside. Is that mixing and then spraying? And then I think my first question when I first saw it too is like, okay, well, these cleaning agents, they have to be like spotless, right? It's like, because you're not going up there and wiping it down like you would like a window cleaning, or someone hanging from a scaffolding and you're then cleaning and then wiping. So I know there's a lot of different uses in different ways and materials, but like, say we just have like a basic skyscraper with windows or whatnot. How does that process look like? Or what do you kind of, how high can you go with those? Can you get to the top? Can you, so many questions come into my mind, and we won't dive into all of them, but, kind of give a brief overview of that process or what that looks like.
Right. So as far as the process with the drone, so our drones have a hose that comes up and connects to the bottom. We also have what's called a window washing payload on them. So basically in the cleaning industry, it's called downstreaming, where the water comes through the pump that's on the trailer. So we use Comet P40 or an AR25, pretty standard power washing pumps, and these are low pressure, and we'll put it through the drone, and it'll pick up the chemical that we're cleaning with, and it's a touch-free chemical to clean, and mix it there at a different ratio based on what exactly we set it to. So we can do it that way. We also sometimes do it where it mixes pre-pump, and we can have more volume on the trailer, because we are, there's a limit to how much liquid you can put on the drone, right? So we start with a rinse. We worked with the manufacturers to design a very custom system to get very pure water, and we keep very close track of that, because that's really what's going to get you like a spot-free clean. So we start with a rinse, apply the chemical, let it set for a certain amount of time, depending on heat, weather, time of day, where the sun's hitting the building, etc. Amount of dirt or type that's on, and then do a rinse. And usually we're able to do high pressure, low pressure rinses depending on the needs of the building. And then do you want to talk about the height stuff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think in the cleaning space with drones, weight is a really important factor, and you can get away from that very easily because you're working in an industry that doesn't care about weight. No one cares about a J-rod end that connects with 4 different fittings on it, because they're holding it, on their hand on the ground. But a pound or 1.5 pounds can really affect your altitude once you're getting a heavy lift drone, at that limit. So we currently use Lucid C1s and Lucid Sherpas. And they have 155 pounds of thrust, right? So very heavy lift, right? This is definitely 1000 class series drone, and it has to be to manage hose and wind in a cleaning environment. And so what we do is we constantly evolve, and we're sourcing different nozzles that are lower weight, different lightweight hoses that have to handle different types of pressures, different types of chemicals. Right now, currently, our high pressure is good up until about 175 feet. And our low pressure is good up to 250 feet. So that gets us really in the ballpark of all these mid-level buildings. I mean, anything 25 stories and below, we're in there, right? And that's, and then anything outside of that, there's a lot of options for us. We can, a lot of those buildings have like raised platforms. We're working on designs to drop from the top of the buildings as well. We're working on designs, for hose management that attaches to buildings using, currently provided human hoisting points, because we're going into an industry where basically there's, this has been provided as a service by guys, hang off the side of the building, right?
Yeah.
So there's options for us to use to kind of assist us in weight, and we've been working on that, and I mean, ultimately it's a little complex, but it's really basic, right? There's a pump, there's mixing stations, and there's water, clean or dirty, from the ground. We're introducing it's a chemical process, and we're just using the drone to apply solution. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's a drone used to provide solution on the building at either low or high pressure. And outside of that, as long as that piece works, we can do whatever, right?
Yeah.
We do acid, we do rust, we do probably not paint yet, but it's coming, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's the opportunities are endless, right? So we're just using the drone as a tool to kind of facilitate that, and really to disrupt the cleaning market. Like, that's what we want to do. We want to disrupt the cleaning market. We want to do it faster. We want to do it more faster, more efficient, safer. We want to add cost savings, increase intervals of cleaning, and really bring this to the market in a way that is both successful for the business and allows us to scale, and then allows the industry to decide, like, hey, do we want humans cleaning buildings, or do we want drones?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's where my head obviously went too. Is like, safety wise, it's way safer than people on scaffolding going up and cleaning these buildings or doing things that are a little sketchy in some ways, but they also have that figured out too. That not the job for me, but I know they've been doing it for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Again, like I mentioned, I've seen a couple videos of it's doing it, and it's always eye catching. It's always like, that's awesome. That's a very cool, niche, obviously, type thing. But it's a first kind of market entrance in a lot of ways where there's not a whole lot of people doing it. So I think that's fantastic. When you talk about like growth and scale, this is obviously something that you are looking to hire people for. Is it something that once you kind of get it through testing and all that, is it going to be a division of VSI, or what's kind of that trajectory now for this new venture that you are entering into?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So we're already at the place where we're getting contracts signed, right? And it's quickly becoming a good problem, right?
Yeah.
As the winter is ending right now, and we're heading into the spring and the summer, and all the way through the fall, which is really the cleaning season, we're already looking at more work across all of the industries, cleaning and then the other services that VSI provides. That is just it's going to be unmanageable, right? So we are already scaling equipment. We're training people to because the crews that are required to operate the cleaning drones are not they're not small. So you're looking at 3 to 4 people per crew. Just to run the trailer, you got to have someone running pumps, someone managing lines. Everyone's got to be on comms. and there's a lot to it. So we have people training currently in those positions, and I think our idea is that we scale as we go. And those people that are becoming familiar, kind of the same way that Gretchen became familiar with as a VO and an on-site communicator with drone operations, they will also become familiar and move up into positions of lead pilots and techs. So we're definitely scaling, and I think we'll probably be hiring people by the summer, if not for both portions of the business. We're already looking for another photographer and videographer, drone pilot, and we have people in line currently for cleaning positions, and I think we'll be looking for more as we get into the fall.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, obviously, anybody that's listening to, if they're in your area or they're interested in reaching out to you or, potentially in one of these positions or just wants to connect and learn more too, I think one of the things I always do at the end is ask, how people can reach out to you, how they can help you, and I kind of alluded to a little bit of the positions that you're looking to hire as well as right now, and then also by summer. But, where can people get in contact with you and how can they help you as you go forward this year in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way to get in contact with us is through our website. We've got a place for you to put an employment inquiry. If you're looking to see what kind of current positions we have. We don't have any currently offered, but we're always getting people's kind of resumes, bodies of work. People that are asking for part-time or full-time work, they can totally reach out to us over there, and we'll definitely respond. And then, really business email and business phone, and we talk to people all the time that, may or may not lead us to paying work. I've had plenty of drone pilots locally that'll call and be like, "Hey, I'm having a problem. I know, this isn't probably like in your wheelhouse, like of what you want to do, but I just figured I'd give you a shot and call." And I'm always willing to talk to people. I'm always looking forward to connecting people, in the drone industry, even in the cleaning industry. So, I think a big piece of business for us is just always having a conversation. And we're always willing to have a conversation with anyone.
I subscribe to as well. It's great, right? Collaboration over competition. I say it all the time, but I'll keep saying it because it is great. And, I appreciate you both hopping on today and sharing your story and, as well as kind of some cool projects and where you're going trajectory wise, starting the new cleaning company as well as growing VSI. So without further ado, I would just want to thank you for being here today, and we'll put all of your information and everything that we talked about today in the show notes of the podcast. So, if everybody liked the podcast today, we always appreciate it as well. Any likes, comments, shares, feedback, anything else, we appreciate it as we're trying to grow this as well and tell people in the industry doing cool stuff and making a legacy of their own. So, Gretchen and Geoff, I really appreciate you again being here, and I hope we can connect sometime in person soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We love the podcast, and we're super happy to be here.
Yeah, very appreciative. Great, thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, and we'll catch up to you soon. And everybody out there, safe flying.
All right.